Today we're taking a look at these NCAAF matches, which are happening on Saturday, September 24, 2022, and giving you match breakdowns, betting tips and predictions in general on these games. Welcome back to High Stakes, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe and push that notification bell to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and if you would like more betting tips and predictions, then check out our Patreon in the link down below. Our new Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. Multiple plans are available for each and every one of you. By becoming a member of the High Stakes Patreon, you will have access to our best team picks, total picks, parlay picks and much more. Stop wasting hours of your time searching for bad betting predictions that ends up costing you a lot of time and money. Join the High Stakes Patreon now and get the best betting picks. Going back to our video, we will give you 2 betting picks for each game, a team pick and a total pick based on facts and detailed explanation. So make sure to watch our videos till the end so you don't miss any of our picks. Baylor vs Iowa State. Baylor has already gone on the road this season and even with a loss, showed their ability to not be fazed one bit by the atmosphere. Now they take on an Iowa State team that they beat last year, and in one game against a struggling Iowa team, they only came away with a 3-point win and 10 points. The Bears will control the clock and control the game on the ground, while Iowa State doesn't have the offensive depth to match. With a major question mark in the secondary for the Cyclones as well, this will be the game where the Bears start to move the ball through the air as well. Additionally, according to Covers.com, the Cyclones are 1-5 ATS in their last 6 home games against a team with a winning road record and 1-4 ATS in their last 5 games against a team with a winning record. Our team pick is Baylor plus 2.5 points. The Bears are averaging 43.7 points per game through 3 games. They average 28.3 points per game in their last 3 games against the Cyclones. Despite their offensive success, they are facing a defense that has been great against the run and the pass and hasn't given up more than 10 points in a game this season, so expect the Bears to be held under their average in this game. The Cyclones are averaging 31.7 points per game this season. They average 29.3 points per game in their last 3 games against the Bears. Even though they won't move the ball efficiently on the ground in this game, they will be able to move it through the air against this defense. But they won't score enough points to push the score over the total. The Bears and Cyclones played under the total in 3 of their last 5 meetings. Our total pick is under 46 points. Penn State vs Georgia. The Golden State Flashes went 7-7 last season, ending the season with a 52-38 loss in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl to Wyoming. Kent State brought back 4 starters on offense and 6 on defense and was predicted to finish second in the MAC East Division in the media preseason poll. The Golden Flashes haven't shied away from tough opposition. They lost 45-20 to Washington and 33-3 to Oklahoma in 2 road games to begin the season. Last week Kent State finally got a home game and routed FCS Full Long Island 63-10. The Georgia Bulldogs went 14-1 last season and won the national championship by averaging their only loss by beating Alabama 33-18 when it mattered most. The Bulldogs welcomed back 7 offensive and 3 defensive starters, losing a lot of talent to the NFL, but the Bulldogs are not rebuilding, they just reloaded. According to Bet, Georgia is favored to win the national championship again with plus 175 odds. Georgia has made easy work out of their first 3 opponents, outscoring Oregon, Samford, and South Carolina by a combined total of 130-10. Georgia opened up the season with a 49-3 win over then number 11 ranked Oregon, sending a message early. In the next game, Georgia only beat Samford by 33 as a 53-point favorite before beating South Carolina by 41 as a 25-point favorite. Kent State is a better team than Samford. They scored 20 points against Washington this season and only trailed Oklahoma 7-3 at the half. Still, Georgia can beat Kent State by 45 plus if they want to, but with the SEC schedule beginning next week, don't expect Georgia to show too much or risk any key injuries. Kent State doesn't have the talent to match up with Georgia, but the Golden Flashes should compete for 60 minutes in this game and have the talent to keep this game closer to 45 points. Our team pick is Kent State plus 45 points. Teams that play grueling non-conference schedules as the traditional underdog program have a propensity to lose and lose by a lot. Kent State has actually proven to be anything but a pushover. In Week 1, against the now 18th Washington Huskies, Kent State dropped the game 45-20 but showed signs of life besides a poor first quarter. Against powerhouse and number 6 Oklahoma, Kent State battled all night and was only down 7-3 at halftime. At 24 points, Sooners' third quarter put the game out of reach, but the Golden Flashes showed a defensive identity and intensity level that put a scare into a perennial top 10 program. Kent State's fortunes turned in Week 3 as quarterback Colin Schley finally settled into a rhythm against a defense that was a little more forgiving in FCS Long Island. He completed 10 of his 12 passes for 199 yards and 2 scores in a 63-10 rout, giving Kent State some much-needed momentum heading into their clash with the Bulldogs. Because of the one-sidedness of this contest, I don't anticipate Georgia's starters playing extended minutes in the second half. That doesn't necessarily mean that Kent State will score more in that time, but it will reduce the pace of play that Georgia establishes in the first half. 62 points likely factors in some Kent State scoring that I do not see occurring. Our total pick is under 62 points. Maryland vs Michigan. When you look at the stats, Maryland should have lost to SMU on Saturday night. They gave up 369 passing yards and 151 rushing yards to go with a ridiculous 15 penalties for 141 yards. The penalties ranged from false starts to offensive holding, pass interference, and unsportsmanlike conduct. Several players were flagged for multiple penalties. They currently rank tied for 126th with 10.3 penalties per game. Maryland should be able to move the ball at times against Michigan, but the defense is the biggest concern. They are allowing 392 yards per game, 89th, and they faced Charlotte and Buffalo in their first 2 games. They are also giving up 274 yards per game in the air to rank 108th in the nation. If they continue to struggle on the back end and commit multiple penalties, they will be in big trouble on Saturday. Jim Harbaugh probably wants to see another blowout, but it probably wouldn't hurt to see his team go through a little adversity. They haven't had much when destroying Colorado State, Hawaii and UConn by a combined 166-17 in their first 3 games. Last week, they crushed the UConn Huskies thanks to J.J. McCarthy's 214 yards passing and 5 rushing touchdowns from Blake Corum. The sophomore is 30 of 34 for 473 yards and 3 TDs. He wasn't the definitive starter early on as Cade McNamara had the edge due to experience. But McCarthy has taken the job and has run with it. Corum, 5'8", 205, rushed for 952 yards and 11 TDs last season, and that's with a high ankle sprain that hampered him late last season. He now has 235 yards and 7 TDs in 3 blowout games, where the starters were removed well before the final horn. Jump on this line before it goes up. This is going to be an absolute blowout. Maryland has had just 1 road game, and it was Charlotte. The last time they traveled to Ann Arbor in 2019, they were crushed 38-7. Every game in this series has been a blowout since 2015, as the Wolverines have covered 6 straight. The Terps' penchant for committing penalties and their struggles in the secondary will force them to play a lot of zone. Michigan will be able to set up the run by passing the ball, and then Corum will take over with a big day running the football. The Wolverines' offensive line will just wear Maryland's defense down. Our team pick is Michigan minus 17 points. Maryland was supremely sloppy in last weekend's game against SMU. The team was penalized 15 times for 141 yards, an ungodly number of penalty yards for a team that already has a difficult time staying on the field. On top of the penalty yards, Maryland allowed SMU to run for 151 yards to go with 369 yards through the air. It's actually a testament to Maryland's improved talent from last season that they're undefeated entering the Michigan game. It's easy to ride the high of top 5 rankings and national recognition when you're feeling out your roster during the non-conference season. It's a much different story when you enter conference play with every team, even for the only time all year. Michigan has dominated everyone in its path so far this season, and with expectations being a playoff spot and a national title run, the Wolverines have their work cut out for them. Sophomore quarterback J.J. McCarthy has been clinical ever since snagging the starting job, throwing for 473 yards and 3 touchdowns on 30 to 34 completed passes for the season. For such a new quarterback, it's often difficult to know what to expect when facing big physical defenses, such as those in the Big Ten. It helps that he has RB Blake Corum to offer much-needed support. Last year, he rushed for 952 yards and 11 scores. Last game, Corum exploded for 5 rushing touchdowns. Michigan's running game has been spectacular this season. They have averaged 231.3 yards per contest and overall are at roughly 500 yards per game of total offense. Michigan should feast on a Maryland defense that has struggled against even inferior teams. Maryland's offense is more polished than any team Michigan has faced, and this could be a high-scoring blowout in which starters are still playing late into the third quarter. Our total pick is over 64.5 points.